It's Levack and Goz on 104.5 The Team.
Big matchup for the Buffalo Bills tonight as they take on the Seattle Seahawks. We are lucky to grab some time with NFL.com's Chris Trapasso. Chris, first things first, the biggest story I'm seeing out there is Russell Wilson's knee. How healthy is Russell Wilson?
Well, he actually said this week that he feels the healthiest that he's felt since week one. Throughout this whole injury that's really been the definition of a nagging injury, he said that he's okay and that he's fine, but when you really see him on the field, he's not that, or he hasn't been that dynamic runner that we've seen over the last 5 seasons. Do I think he's 95%, 99%? Probably not. I mean, now that he is 3 or 4 weeks into this injury, he probably does feel a little bit better. He also has a right pectoral injury. He's had some problems with his ankle as well. So I think he is probably around 75%, which, that is better than a lot other quarterbacks when you have Russell Wilson as your guy. But, any quarterback at 75% is just not going to be as effective, especially someone who likes to run as much as he does.
And it wouldn't be shocking if the Seahawks offense tries to avoid putting in Wilson in situations where he could take more hits. But on the other side of it, the Buffalo Bills offense, it seems as if they're trying to make Tyrod Taylor another version of Russell Wilson. Has that been a goal of this team since Greg Roman was let go as the OC?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't come out and said that they want to mold Tyrod Taylor into the next Russell Wilson. But just when you look at their size, their ability to throw the ball downfield, their mobility, I mean, it would make sense to kind of try to mold his game around Russell Wilson, who's been really successful and has really orchestrated that team on the offensive side for the last 5 years. I think, though, what the Bills probably need to do with Tyrod Taylor when they're facing Russell Wilson and that Seahawks defense is run the football. That if you're trying to mold your quarterback after Russell Wilson, in those years where they were going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, they were leaning on Marshawn Lynch. And then after they were kind of wearing down a defense, that's when they were using play action and they were throwing the football down the field. They were just trying to keep the chains moving. And I think that's been probably the most underrated thing about kind of the rise of the Seahawks in the last 5 years, that they certainly have a ton of talent on the defensive side at all levels. But when they were able to run the football really well, their defense was not on the field very much. So they were, third quarter, fourth quarter, they were very, very rested. So I think what the Bills need to do is kind of the same thing, that they're the, best running team in football, run it, try not to necessarily hit those big but low percentage plays early, move the chains, and, keep Tyrod Taylor out of 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9s, get him into 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 5s. It'll be good for your offense just to get into a rhythm, and it'll really help your defense stay off the field.
Chris Trapasso from NFL.com with us right here on 104.5 The Team. So Chris, I'm becoming the injury report guy then. So if we're going to run the football as Bills fans, how's LaShawn McCoy? Is he ready to take that workload today?
Yeah, I think the week off last week was really good for him. He did not, have a torn hamstring or anything like that. He just felt a little tweak in his hamstring that he felt a tweak the week before in practice. He felt that tweak 2 weeks ago against the Miami Dolphins. He didn't try to run through it. He got fewer than 10 carries in that game. When he felt that little tweak, he was on the sideline for the rest of the game. So he's really rested since then. He did not play last week against the Patriots. Kind of like Russell Wilson, I'm not going to say that he's 100% or he's even 99%, but I think he's pretty close. Even on his 8 runs against the Dolphins, he didn't really have a lot of production because the holes weren't there, but he did not look, slowed down or that he wasn't able to make those, amazing cuts that we've seen from him throughout his career and this season. So I think, I don't know if we're going to see 25 carries for him today, but I think he will be, back as that feature back for the Bills tonight.
We know the Seattle Seahawks has that Legion of Boom secondary, and the Bills are banged up on the outside of their skill positions. Sammy Watkins still out for the season. Is there anybody, wide receiver, tight end, that can take advantage of the Legion of Boom and maybe help out Tyrod and McCoy?
Not really. I guess Percy Harvin being back in the mix, even if he's not going to come in and catch 6 passes for 130 yards, at least there's a threat of him whether it's in the screen game and just getting yards after the catch, whether it's down the field. I'm not saying that teams had no respect for the Bills receivers in the past, in the past couple of weeks. But when you have guys like Justin Hunter, who's been cut from 2 teams this year, Walt Powell, who's been on a couple teams, who's probably better suited as a 4th or 5th option, or maybe even on the practice squad, as your number 2 and your number 3 receiver, or even your number 1 at times, teams are not going to really worry that much about the passing game. And that kind of plays into why I think the Bills need to really run the football, because without Sammy Watkins, with Robert Woods not at 100%, Marquise Goodwin will come back tonight, but he, outside of, catching that deep ball, he has not been really reliable in terms of just having 3, 4, 5, 6 catches a game. So certainly one of the Bills' bigger weaknesses right now, and a lot of this is due to Sammy Watkins not being on the field, is the receiving corps. So I think to try to go toe-for-toe with the Seahawks secondary when you have a beat-up receiving corps is probably not the best idea, and that's why I think the Bills really need to stay dedicated to the running game from the first quarter on.
We got Chris Trapasso with us right now from NFL.com on 104.5 The Team. So, Chris, probably, if the Bills are going to win this, it's going to be a defensive battle. We're looking at this Bills defense, and we're looking at guys like Lorenzo Alexander and Zach Brown. And, if you had given me 10 guesses to tell, who were going to be the best players in this defense before the season started, I don't think I would have got either one of them.
Yeah, and I think that's really a testament to the job that Doug Whaley, the Bills GM, has done on the free agent market. He spent time in Pittsburgh as the director of pro personnel, so he was dealing with all the free agents before he was the Bills GM. That was really his expertise. So to bring in a guy like Zach Brown at 1-year deal for $1.25 million, it was pretty much a free agent signing that no one really paid attention to. Same with Alexander. They were able to, and I think beyond Doug Whaley, I think this kind of shows that Whaley and Rex Ryan are on the same page, that Rex says, okay, I want this type of player. I want this type of outside linebacker. I want an inside linebacker with a lot of speed. And I think Doug Whaley did a good job to bring in those depth guys that even when Shaq Lawson can't play for the first 6 weeks, or your second-round pick linebacker, Reggie Ragland, who you're really excited about, goes down, there's not a huge drop-off. So I think, they're certainly 2 guys that I was not expecting to be, kind of the leaders in terms of overall production on this Bills defense. But they have played very, very well pretty much every game this season.
Seahawks have won 10 straight Monday Night Football games. The Bills have lost 5 straight Monday Night Football games. Let's get a prediction out of you. What do you think happens tonight?
I think it is going to be one of the maybe not as exciting for what fans want in today's NFL, but I think it is going to be one of those lower scoring games. I mean, the Seahawks have had games 12-10, 9-3 this year. That obviously that 6-6 tie that we saw on Sunday Night Football 2 weeks ago. I think the Seahawks will win this game, but I think these teams are actually pretty similar. They have good secondaries. They have quarterbacks that are very, very similar. Decent run games. Obviously, I think the biggest advantage for the Bills is their defensive line against the Seahawks offensive line. It's not very good. And like I mentioned earlier, that the Seahawks have a big advantage with their secondary against the Bills passing game. I think the Seahawks do win this game, though, just because that stadium is super loud. They're so good at home, and they're really, really good at home in primetime, like you said. I think something like 13-10, 13-7, something like that. I think yards and points are going to be really hard to come by tonight.
Chris, if the Bills drop games like this one, even though, the Seahawks are a legit team, is there a point this season where we start worrying about Rex's future as the Bills head coach?
I think if the Bills really tank down the stretch and go, 1-7, 2-6, I think that's probably when, if you're into December and the Bills are 3 or 4 games under 500, I think Bills fans could kind of worry about that at that point. But I think with the injuries, I think, and because we've heard Terry Pagula say over and over again that he's all about continuity, they signed Rex to a 5-year deal last year. So I think the Bills would really have to tank down the stretch. And when you look at the schedule, which, certainly you can't ever really just, say, all right, this is a loss, this is a win. But when you look at the schedule, they do have 4 of their last 6 at home. There is the 0-9 Browns on there. There's the Jaguars that haven't played that well this year. They get the Dolphins at home. So I think that there's probably not that good of a chance that the Bills are going to go 1-7 or 2-6 down the stretch. And I certainly don't think that, if they lose tonight, that would really have any, impact on his future. I think most likely Rex Ryan will be back next season.
Chris Trapasso of the NFL.com covers the Bills. Nice enough to make some time for us. Getting ready for this big Monday night matchup. Man, we appreciate you, and have fun in covering this defensive fist fight.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.